Yes.
All right. I'm a Atheist Caller.
Yay.
I've been a long time viewer of your show and actually enjoy it. You guys have helped me break through a lot of the religious, I would say, mentality, fundamentalist Christian mentality. So it's been a positive thing watching your show.
So you're not a fundamentalist?
No, no longer. I mean, I used to be semi-fundamentalist, but I had questions and watching your show kind of brought me out that.
Okay. All right, see, honestly, I just want to say that makes me happy. I'm cool with you still being a theist, but if we push you in our direction one step, then I think we're doing our job.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm open to come to that step. I want to try to maintain as intellectually honest as possible. But I seem to have one problem though.
Okay.
With the whole atheism thing.
Yep.
And it's pretty much based upon my assertion. I assert that God cannot be proven. I believe it's an improvable concept. To even talk about it seems to be futile, because when you baseline God, and I see a lot of times, Matt, and you guys seem to ask people, what God do you believe in? Explain your definition of God. And that seems to be chasing the red herrings, these anthropomorphized versions of God, derivatives of what God is. But my thing is, you guys are not our Christian or our Muslim or our Joe Schmo's definition of God. You guys are atheists. So if I'm taking the atheist position, I have to really honestly, intellectually, honestly baseline the definition of God. And when doing so...
May I?
Yeah, you're good at this.
Yeah, actually, you're absolutely right. And I use the term atheist not in a blanket sense, but when I'm talking about the kinds of gods that almost everybody is talking about when they say God. Okay. Now, in the case of, like, Julius Caesar, who was declared a god by the Roman Senate, I'm a theist, because I don't really doubt that Julius Caesar existed, that there was a guy who was called a god, and that those historical events happened, and that historical figure existed.
Okay.
But that's not a problem for my atheism, because 99.9% of the time, that is not what people are talking about. Likewise, if you've got some South Seas Islanders with a totem pole, and they say that totem pole is their god, I can go up and rap on it with my knuckles and know that it exists. I'll have some issues about their claims of its magical powers. But as far as its existence, I'm a theist on the subject of that God. So, yes, you're absolutely right. If you mean the word, if you apply the word atheist to yourself and you mean absolutely everything that might possibly be called a God you don't believe in, you're going to be in trouble.
Well, I wouldn't go that far. I understand people have to. There's some fringe, beliefs in God. I like to base on it. I can't get 100% accuracy, but when you look at the meaning of when people say God, for the most part, for what I've experienced, and I can't say for everybody, but I come down to really one thing, and it comes down to infinity, something that's beyond your knowledge, even if it's beyond your knowledge at that time. During the Greeks, like lightning might have been beyond their knowledge, so they labeled that, of the gods, it was beyond their understanding, but once they understood it, it was no longer God.
So are you saying that lightning used to be...
something to me which represents something that's infinity. And even if that infinity moves, even if that line moves, infinity will always exist. And to me, that really is what represents God. That infinite being that represents infinity. Now, and when I say being God, I say being because it could be a natural infinity, a natural regress. But when I say God, I say people, for the most part, would link God to a being that represents infinity.
So this God of yours might not be sentient, might not actually do anything. It might just be an abstract concept.
It may be, because when I say infinity...
So if it's that, like Jeff said, that's not something we really want to argue with. It's just like Julius Caesar. If you want to call Julius Caesar God, go ahead, and I believe in Julius Caesar, so I believe in God. Well, so if I accept your abstract concept, then we can say I'm a theist, but then so what?
Julius Caesar is finite. That's a person at one point somebody could...
Yeah, but different people... apparently you're trying to introduce another definition of God that is not what everybody thinks.
May I?
Yeah, go ahead.
can I just
Hey,
say something?
yeah, go ahead, Jonathan.
I don't feel, and I understand where you guys are coming from, but I don't feel like I'm introducing that. Throughout history, in the Bible, I don't believe in the literacy of the Bible, but throughout ancient texts, the Bible included,
Yeah.
God has been declared as being omnipotent, all-powerful, all-knowing, all-existing. These are terms which represent infinity, all.
Right.
This is not just in the Bible. So when I say baseline God,
Yeah.
these are terms that I'm not just bringing to the table. This has been in existence for, as long as I can remember, as long as I can go back.
Okay. Now, Russell was brought up Julius Caesar again, and you said that's not what you mean, because what you're talking about infinity, by which, correct me if I'm wrong, as I understand it, you mean God is the something out there that's beyond our knowledge.
And I say being because
And
when I say,
you say being.
I say being because God, when I say being, which represents infinity, obviously infinity could be a natural regress. But when I say, what do people want, when I want a baseline God.
Okay, why do you think there's a being? Why do you think there's an infinite being?
I'm not even going to the point where I say I believe there's a being. I'm just saying the baseline God.
Yeah?
God, baseline, is a being which represents infinity.
And you don't believe in that?
Throughout it, no, I'm not making any statement of. I haven't even got to my statement of belief yet.
Okay.
I'm trying to get there.
But, well, I thought maybe I could say something that would give us a little common ground, okay? And that is, Russell and I do not doubt that there are things that are beyond our knowledge.
Okay.
Right?
We just don't call them God.
We don't call them God because if they're beyond our knowledge, you really can't say anything about them. That's the nature of being beyond our knowledge. It's a thing we don't know anything about. So why would you characterize it as a God?
So if that's the case, I don't care what we call it. We can call it boobalai, job. We can make up words. These are just letters. These are
A lot of people have made up those words.
Exactly the term. So God, we can just throw that off the table. Let's just call it, I call it God because this is a theism versus atheism debate.
Yeah.
And I would like to say that God baseline represents those properties, the infinite properties that I stated. Now, you don't have to call it God here. You can call it whatever you want. But as far as this is concerned, I would like to keep the terminology the same.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not, that's just my starting point.
Okay.
I'm not saying that I believe that thing exists yet. I haven't even gotten to that point yet.
Okay.
But if that thing that we can't understand, which we don't want, the entity, let's not even call it God, that thing which we cannot understand yet, to me it's logical to believe that it is a being. And I say God because God is a being which represents infinity.
Why do you say it's logical to say it's a being?
Okay, I'm getting there. I say it's logical to believe that because if you ask anybody, do they want to live forever? Do they want eternal life? Do they hope for it? Most people would say yes. Now, God is inconceivable. We can't conceive it because infinity is inconceivable. If it was conceivable, it wouldn't be infinity. So it's inconceivable. So now it really stops at hope. Do you hope that there's a being? If there is a being, by its very nature, it could. And I don't know if it would or, I can't even propose those things. But by its nature, if it's all-powerful, it could grant me eternal life because he exists in the eternal life. It could. I don't know if it would. So to me, it's natural to hope that God exists and that God is true. I don't know if it is. I can't even go there. I can't even conceive it. But it really stops at hope. So if I hope that God exists and I can't prove it, it's improvable, to me, belief is just a function of that hope. See, when it's something that's improvable, like,
Do you want to
we've got like an hour show, and we're going to have to get to a point.